Namaste. Namaste. I'm speaking from Sri Aurobindo Ashram, Delhi branch, and I have with me here a guest, Professor Brij Kothari, and he was sharing with me the journey of his life, which reminded me of what the mother has called the temporary occupation and our final calling. To sort of give you the background, we ideally should choose our career based on what we're really made for, means the type of talents and gifts that we have received right at birth, and which make us best equipped to do a certain type of job. But then when we actually come to selecting our career, it is very often our circumstances which guide us. And therefore, what we initially end up doing may not be what we can do best, what we enjoy the most, what we are passionate about. But then the mother says that this can be taken as a temporary occupation. And even this temporary occupation should not be handled in a perfunctory manner. We should put our heart and soul into it. And if we do it with total sincerity and dedication, then one day we are sure to discover our final calling. So Professor Brij Kothari has gone through so many diverse fields in his life. And I think probably he has now discovered his final calling, or he's pretty close to it. So let him tell in his own words how his journey has been and how he looks at it in terms of this mother's wonderful way of looking at what we do throughout life as a temporary occupation and our final calling.
So it's a very good question. See, my involvement with same language subtitling and the work we do, to me, actually, initially was a temporary occupation. I thought 2 years I will do academic research on it, hopefully find good evidence, prove that this same language subtitling works, pass my research publications to policy making, and they will, of course, be enamored with the research output, and they know the problem, and they will, of course, make it national policy. And then I could start doing some other temporary occupation. 25 years later, I know that that's not how the world moves. Right? So in a sense, that temporary occupation had to evolve into a slightly longer temporary occupation. From 2 to 25 years, it got stretched. What I think for me, the part that I just kept me going personally is the goal, which was the knowledge that when this succeeds, it will get 1 billion people to read every day for life. Now, that's a very, very powerful and something goal that it's not easy to shake off. Right? So I don't even think of it in terms of personally, in terms of temporary, or is it my final calling? Certainly, it's not my final calling. I know that. But I also think that it's almost like I'm approaching it with all the passion, as if this is my final calling. I would like to make this a reality. Maybe it'll take another 5 years, another 10 years, maybe a whole lifetime, and maybe not even my lifetime, somebody else's lifetime. But it's a worthy enough purpose where I feel like it could be my final calling happily. But I would also hope that something like this, if systems move fast enough, actually free me up a little bit to start looking for another temporary occupation. Because you don't want your people who are maybe trying to do something new and getting it somewhere to be caught up in one temporary occupation. You want to create many temporary occupations, if you want to call it. So, for example, one of the things I do think about is that, okay, we've to some extent have a solution for reading. How about math, for example, right? That could be another long, reasonably good temporary occupation. In math, I think I look at what people are passionate about. In India, it seems to be cricket. Everybody loves cricket. There's a lot of math and statistics almost inbuilt into the sport. Can we leverage that to teach math, for example? That could be another temporary occupation for me. Final calling is something that, I would love to be able to work on the big challenge that is looming in front of all of us, which is climate change. I would love to be able to contribute to alleviate some of the effects of that. Now, maybe that is something that I feel is a much more of a global kind of endeavor that one could make a small contribution somewhere.
Thank you for a very candid answer. But certainly, as you said, you are much closer to your final calling now, because the journey from physics and medicinal plants to being an educationist is itself a rather, if not tortuous, at least a convoluted journey. And the two interests that you mentioned, the present work that you're doing as an educationist and what you think might be your final calling, that is to work for the environment, are both directed at the future generations. So in a way, they fall in place as something in common, which will make the world a much better place to live in. And that exactly was the vision of Sri Aurobindo and the mother. And there can be several routes through which we could approach this goal, several directions, several types of work that needs to be done. And what you're doing and what you have in mind are certainly very much in line with working towards a better world. Thank you, Professor Kothari.
Thank you.